You're watching NewsX and NewsX YouTube. I'm Megha Sharma, and we are eagerly awaiting the visit of Xi Jinping, the President of China, to India, and the very specific place where Xi Jinping is in fact going to hold that informal summit with the Prime Minister of our country, Narendra Modi, is going to be Mahabalipuram, the coastal town of Tamil Nadu. Now, a lot of people must be thinking, what is the significance of picking up Mahabalipuram vis-a-vis having in fact held it in Delhi or Mumbai or Bengaluru or Hyderabad. There is something very, very important historically, religiously as well when it comes to the ties between China and India, and this is exactly what I will try to unravel over here in front of you and make you, my audiences, a little more educated and knowledgeable about why Mahabalipuram and why Tamil Nadu has this strong connect with China that goes on to thousands and thousands of years. Now let's take a look at this image. This is one of the several dozen temples that have been located in Quanzhou, that is an eastern city in the province of Sichuan in China, in eastern China. And there are in fact a number of these temples and the ruins of temples and shrines and sculptures and columns and pillars that have in fact been found, have in fact been excavated by the archaeologists over there, and they go about telling and narrating the entire majestic tale of the Chola dynasty. Yes, exactly, the Chola dynasty that was massively rampant and extremely flourishing when it came to the 2nd to the 4th century. Exactly, that's how long ago the history of India and China has intertwined, and that's what we are talking about. So I'm going to take you through a number of these images, a number of these temples, a number of these sculptures that have been discovered by archaeologists, and they are massively insightful. They hold a massive, very, very fascinating story of the connect between China and Quanzhou, especially with the city of Mahabalipuram and Tamil Nadu, and those strong trade ties that actually ended up burgeoning the trade, not just the trade ties, but also the sculptural development, the cultural development, the historic development and architectural development of China, thanks to India, thanks to the Tamil rulers back in the day that was the Chola dynasty. Let's take a look at these images. So I start off with this one image. Now this is the image of the Lakshmi holding the trident, the three-pronged spear in her hand, and that's the Char Bhuja Lakshmi over here. This was one of the artifacts, this was one of the sculptures, this was one of the inscriptions in fact found at the temples, at least a dozen or more of the temples in Quanzhou city in the eastern province of China, and that holds a massive significance, and the dates back to the 2nd century to the 4th century. So that's the time, that centuries and centuries old of this sculpture that has been found. In fact, let's take a look at this image. Now this is the image of the Lakshmi that also is in Quanzhou city. This is one of the locals over there. They burn the incenses every single day. They pray to the deity. There might be some, they might not know what exactly is the correct inference that date back from years to centuries ago, but this in fact is the image, this in fact is the sculpture of goddess Lakshmi, who is in fact venerated, who is preyed upon across the country in India, from the length and breadth, north, south, east, west, every single where you go, Lakshmi is prayed. Lakshmi is in the houses, in the temples of every single city, state, village, town of our country, and worshipped in various forms. And so does happen in China. It is very, very enlightening. Many of you like me would not have known about this, but now we learn about this entire huge heritage that was left back in the 2nd to the 4th century by the Chola dynasty, by the Tamil traders that traveled miles and miles through the sea into the Chinese province over here and built architecture, built trade ties, ties, built a massive city over there to speak of, and which was thriving and burgeoning thanks to those trade ties, thanks to the money pouring in with the exchange of ties between India and China. Here's a closer look at that image of goddess Lakshmi. That's exactly what you're talking about. Number of people in China, and there are a number of people in Quanzhou who go and pray to this deity till date. And also for the fact there's a minority, strong minority, a Hindu minority. They are in fact worshipping the Shiva over there, and they call it Shivites, and that's a minority that continues to stay in China as well. Okay, so this is very interesting, and this is going to bring you more inference into the fact that how exactly we came to the conclusion, and how exactly have the historians and the archaeologists have come to the conclusion that there is a big similarity between the temples that have been built under the Chola dynasty in Tamil Nadu, in Mahabalipuram and other cities along Tamil Nadu, and in fact this city Quanzhou in China. So this is the image that has been captured by a cameraman. The archaeologists in China had dug up this image. This is one of the image that has been captured from the ruins, in fact, of a temple in China, and this is a cow that is venerating and protecting the Shiva Lingam on your screens. That's exactly what it is. And now if I make you take a look at this image. Now, a very striking image. Now, this image is from a temple. This tablet, this sculptural tablet that has been clicked over here, is in fact the image, the very striking image, extremely almost similar to the one that we saw just a moment ago. This is from a Tamil temple in Tamil Nadu, Mahabalipuram. So that's exactly what we are talking about. There's this striking resemblance to the architecture, to the sculptures, to the inscriptions in the Tamil temples and the temples that have been found in the city of Quanzhou in East China. Going back over here, again a lot of mythical characters. This is the elephant that goes about venerating the Shiva Lingam, and take a look over here. This is and that's exactly what he does. Take a look at the Shiva Lingam. He's venerating it, he's protecting it, he's also showering it with water. And the story that goes behind it is that there's a web also that has been weaved by a spider. Now the spider is also in his own way protecting and venerating the Shiva Lingam. And when the elephant comes and takes a look at that web and tries to remove it, thinking that it is actually not doing any justice to the Shiva Lingam, and he wants to clean it, so what the spider does, it gets into the snot of the elephant. There's a tussle between the two, and finally the elephant is vanquished and the spider is victorious in that battle between the two. So that was one of the stories that these such kind of stories are in fact narrated through the generations in the past by our ancestors, and they are brought about into our generations. They are narrated to our generations as well. And similar stories are in fact narrated from one generation to the other, from the grandparents to the children, and then their children, and then their children. This has been happening for centuries now. So one instance of how similar, in fact, the Tamil legacy, the Tamil history, the Tamil civilization was deep entrenched into the Chinese territory of Quanzhou, especially. A look at another of these inscriptions on one of the Chinese temple's walls. Again, it's an elephant, and there is this all the beautification, all the flowers that are actually being used to beautify this entire sculpture. In fact, yeah, so let's take a look at this. Now this again holds massive significance. Now this image, if you show it to any Indian, show it to any Hindu, would first of all quip and say that this is the fourth avatar of Vishnu. He is in fact God. This is Hiranyakashipu, who is lying on his lap. This in fact is what happened centuries and centuries ago. This was depicted in the Chola dynasty as well, and as a matter of fact, there was this one instance, there was a story that revolved around it, that Hiranyakashipu, who was a ruler back in the day, and he became so powerful that he became extremely arrogant, and he was in fact given this wish by the gods, saying that he will never die. He will never die in the form of human or in the form of animal. Nobody can kill him inside or outside the house. Nobody can kill him during the day or night. And therefore Vishnu came about with this avatar, the fourth avatar of Vishnu. He was brought about. Vishnu is called traditionally the protector of the devotees, and he came down on earth and decided to take this form of half animal, half human. So his bust is human, and from the bust down he's a lion, and that's what he has done. He has killed finally. He has finally vanquished. He has finally killed Hiranyakashipu, and this is the image. If I zoom it over here, and this so the instance was that it was during the evening, during the dusk, that the gods actually decided, that is the fourth avatar of Vishnu, he decided to actually kill Hiranyakashipu, the emperor, who was becoming too big for his boots. He was neither a human, he was not an animal, he was half human and half animal. He also did not kill him inside the house or outside the house. He killed him right at the steps of the house, right at the entrance of the house. So that's how the story goes, that's how the mythological fable goes. And the same image, in fact, is engraved in a temple wall in one of the dozens and dozens of temples that have been located and excavated by archaeologists in China. So there are similar hundreds and hundreds of similar stories that have been narrated through these pictures. Take a look at these pictures. This is again the Vishnu's fourth avatar over here. Again, he's at a number of places he continues to hold weapons. That are places where he continues to hold flowers. He's also holding the jade. So every single of these images over here, every single of these carvings over here, see the fourth avatar of Vishnu, and that finally depicts exactly how rich the heritage of the Tamil temples was, the Chola dynasty was, and gives us a complete insight into this big, massive, strong tie-up between China and India, even back in the day, even centuries. This was back in the 2nd or the 4th century, so that's a really, really long time ago. Yeah, another image of goddess Lakshmi over here, another tablet of the engraved Lakshmi over here on your screens shows this was also taken on from a temple engraving in China, in Quanzhou. This is Lord Krishna. Now these are the Krishna Leela. A few of these images that I'm going to show you are the Krishna Leelas. Here it is Lord Krishna during his childhood. He's being tied to the tree. Everybody knows this story. As we grow up, we are narrated these stories by our grandmothers, by our grandfathers, and even in our Panchtantras, in our storybooks. This is what we have been taught as well in schools. So this is another one of the capturings by the archaeologists. Now this is Lord Krishna over here, and these are his gopis. So this is the time being spent by Lord Krishna and his gopis. Another image captured, engraved in those temples in China. This is of course goddess Saraswati with her lotus, sitting on the lotus flower. Again, one of those images. Here, now this is a mysterious monument which has been captured from Quanzhou. This is in all likelihood supposed to be the Shivalingam. This is a monument that has been erected for centuries. People do not really know what is the advent of it, what is the history behind it, but in all likelihood, taking a look at this Tamil temple heritage over here in Quanzhou, this is in all likelihood the Shivalingam that has been erected centuries and centuries ago and continues to stand strong even at this day and age. Here's a look at the Nandi. Now there are some 500 and more of these sculptures, Nandi sculptures, that have been found from these dozens of temples that have been excavated and studied deeply by the archaeologists, the Chinese archaeologists. And I'll also take you through a number of these images. Now these are also images, these are images of gods These are images of gods and goddesses that are revered, that are prayed, that are venerated in India, in across the length and breadth of the country. And they are also, in fact, this is Nataraja. This is Lord Nataraja over here that we see. Let's take a look. Yes, no, this is in fact, this has been curated now. This has been picked from a Shiva temple, the ruins of a Shiva temple in Quanzhou, and has now been kept in the Quanzhou Maritime Museum. It has been preserved and been put over there for the viewership of the people. These are the pillars of the Shiva temple over here. These are the two monkeys. This is the monkey, the Vanar, who is protecting, who is guarding this entire entrance. And in fact, very interesting. These are like I said, now it's very important for you to zoom in to this and see the kind of engravings that have been made on it, the kind of carvings that have been made on it. And I will like to show you an almost exact replica of the temples in Tamil Nadu, and the pillars and the columns that have been erected over there, and there's a massive similarity. I like to show you a zoomed in version over here as well. So here's a look at the sculptures that have been engraved onto those pillars and columns. This is a Tamil temple, and take a look at the temple in the Shiva temple in China, in Quanzhou. And here's a look at these engravings. The lotus flowers have been engraved. These lions have been engraved. That's Narsimha. In fact, we were talking about the fourth avatar of Vishnu. That's been engraved over here in his various forms and flourishes. So that's what we are talking about. Here again, very, very interesting. These are inscriptions, and these are inscriptions in the bilingual Chinese Tamil language that may have actually come into force, come into usage because of the maligning, because of the two cultures actually coming together, two cultures of Tamil and the culture of China, culture of Quanzhou actually coming together. And there was a new script that came about into being because of the fact that the two cultures combined together. There was flourishing trade that was happening, there was cultural exchange, there was religious exchange, there was all sorts of exchange happening, and that entire port city of China was thriving over here centuries ago in China. Again, yet another image of the Lakshmi over here. We take a look. This is another of the capturings by the archaeologists. Now this is also very interesting. This is the Vishnu, the sculpture of Vishnu over here. Now Vishnu, the Char Bhuja Vishnu is what you call the Vishnu with 4 arms over here. And this is a sculpture. This is the idol that has been excavated and founded by archaeologists and now kept safely in the Quanzhou Maritime Museum for viewers to view. Again, this is in fact Vishnu on his Garuda, his favored vehicle, his preferred vehicle, an image that has been captured of the engraving over here on one of the temple walls. And like I said, this had already mentioned about these. So this is exactly what we are talking about. That's exactly what I wanted to tell you, my viewers, that there is this massive similarity between the Tamil architecture and the architecture and the ruins that were found in the temple towns of Quanzhou. There are a number of temples that were in fact found, and in fact these are the only sculptures, if you believe it or not, these are the only sculptures across China that have been found, that have been excavated by archaeologists. And they completely point fingers to the fact that the Chola dynasty not just expanded across the Indian subcontinent, not just in Malaysia, Indonesia and Maldives, but also had its roots spread into China. And it was not just holding trade ties, but in fact it was burgeoning, it was flourishing, the culture, the trade, there were settlements in fact, and there was in fact even a language that had been brought about with this mixture of China and Tamil heritage coming together and cropping about a very new language that was happening back in the 2nd to the 4th century. And that's exactly why India has decided to pick Mahabalipuram to bring about the focus of the age-old, centuries-old India-China trade ties back to the fore. Not just trade ties, but also religious ties, historical ties, and forge upon these historical ties a bigger, fresher, newer and a more stringent, more strong relationship between the two countries that will be a force to reckon with across the world, because these are two big superpowers that are unquestionably, if joined together and work together in tandem, are going to take on the world and are going to have world dominion at the end of the day. Okay.
टीवी तो आप चेक ले लियो।